Yum. Futaba stretched as she finished going over some calculations. Sitting down in her office. She'd been pretty busy as of late. With her work being the foundation for several other projects after all. Ugh, Ren's gonna kill me for staying up this late, Futaba said as she drank some coffee. But he's the one who gave me the coffee, so he only has himself to blame. With some fuel added to her tank, Futaba got back to work. Or at least she would have. Shum. Suddenly a bright flash of light engulfed the room, coming from behind Futaba. Huh? Futaba stood up and turned around, and saw two figures engulfed in light. And when the light died down, she got a clearer image of the two who had appeared in her lab. One was a blonde teenage girl in a blue dress, with bright blue eyes and a blue headband. The other was a small child with black spiky hair, with red tips. He was wearing a hospital gown, and he looked worse for wear. He was sweating like he was in a sauna, and his breathing was heavy and labored. His eyes were only half open, as it looked like he was trying to stay awake. But what was most notable was the fact that he appeared to be holding a Chaos Emerald. BRRRRRRR! 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 Intruder alert! Intruder alert! Intruder detected in the lab of Dr. Futaba Akira. The girl panicked and picked up the child, before running out of the lab. Futaba, what's going on? Protoman said through Futaba's communicator. Two people teleported into my lab. I think it was an accident, but they're panicking, and one of them looks like he's sick. Futaba was actually proud of how well she managed to say all that without devolving into panicked nonsense. And the boy is holding a Chaos Emerald. Shit, Protoman swore. He could tell this was going to be complicated. The girl's feet were tired. She was breathing heavily, and her head hurt so much. But she couldn't stop. If she stopped, they were dead. She could see the exit to the lab, and she ran towards it as fast as her feet would take her. Then Protoman dropped down, standing in front of the exit. Freeze! Don't move! The girl didn't stop and just looked at Protoman fearfully, continuing her charge, while clutching the boy in arms protectively. The boy grunted a bit and clutched the emerald tighter. Shum! Suddenly the two were enveloped in light and disappeared, before appearing behind Protoman and running away from him. Damn it! Protoman turned around and turned his arm into a cannon. Stop! This is your last warning. But the girl didn't stop, she kept running towards the forest, not paying Protoman's words any mind. I warned you, Protoman said, as he aimed his weapon, and fired. Phew! Ah! The girl screamed out in pain, as the laser blast hit her leg. It was a low-power shot, so it didn't do more than burn her leg, but that was enough to make the girl limp instead of run. But the girl had already made it into the forest and ran in between the trees. TCH. Protoman switched on his chaos energy detector, locking onto the two's chaos energy signatures, only to find something startling. The girl was basically undetectable, which meant she was likely quirkless. But the boy was emitting ludicrous amounts of chaos energy, similar to that of the emerald he held. This just keeps getting more and more complicated, Protoman said before he started running after them. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX forest, the cold night air rushing past her face and stinging against her burnt leg. She definitely wasn't at her lab, but then who was that person who shot her? Was Gun looking for them here too? It didn't matter. At least not right now. All that mattered was getting out of here with their lives. Ha yeah. Maria's eyes widened, and she froze. In front of her was a pack of apathy, looking right at her with their nightmarish eyes. Rah! The apathy roared, causing the girl to recoil in pain at just how loud their screeches were, as the Grimm stumbled towards her. The girl immediately turned around and was about to run back, only to find Protoman behind her, aiming his cannon at her. She turned to her left and saw a hound blocking that way, on her right, a pack of sulfurfish. The boy, although his vision was blurry, could tell they were surrounded. And so he clutched the emerald tight. Don't! Protoman ordered as he ran towards them. Shum! But it was too late. In a flash of light, they were gone. Damn it. That is an annoying power. Protoman said as he looked around trying to lock onto the boy's signal, and finding him miles away in the forest. With that, he ran off, to try and catch them once again. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX The boy went limp, and the emerald dropped, as the boy fell unconscious. Lo. The girl looked down at the boy in alarm and quickly pressed her ear against his chest. Relieved to find his heart still beating. But that moment of weakness caused her to crumble and fall to the ground. She felt herself lose feeling in her body, the world started to spin, and her eyes began to flutter. Sleep took her before she could even attempt to resist. Soft. That was the first thought that came to her head as she finally regained consciousness. Beep, 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 beep. She could hear the sound of a heart monitor and several other machines around. Am I in a hospital? She thought, as she finally opened her eyes, wincing a bit as light, before her eyes adjusted and she took in her surroundings. She was in one of the Midoriya Foundation bedrooms, lying down in a bed, with loads of medical equipment surrounding her. This doesn't look like a hospital, she said to herself. Where am I? Surprisingly, her body felt fine, so she tried to sit up. Only to be stopped, as she noticed some rather tight bindings around her wrist, keeping her from moving around too much. She struggled a bit, trying to free herself, but she soon found that it was a pointless endeavor. Krrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr his side. Notably, he appeared to be wearing more casual clothes, that being a white shirt and jeans. I apologize for the bindings, but I had to take precautions seeing as you broke onto my property, Izuku said in English. What? The girl paused. She definitely wasn't at her grandfather's lab anymore. So wherever this was, must be this person's property. I didn't mean to. I swear I don't know how we go here, we don't want to hurt anyone or steal anything, I swear. In response, Izuku pulled out a green crystal and stared at it for a few seconds, before putting it back in his pocket. Sai went over to the girl and leaned down. The girl flinched, not knowing what she'd do, but much to their relief, they were just undoing their bindings. Again, I'm sorry for that. But now that I know you don't mean any harm, we can talk normally. Izuku said as he pulled up a chair and sat next to her bed. My name is Izuku Midoriya. Yours? Maria Metallic. The girl said, giving him a confused look. That name, it doesn't sound Chinese. It's not. Izuku returned her confusion. It's Japan's. Do you think you're in China? I'm not. Maria looked even more confused as well as shocked and concerned. No, you're in Japan, Izuku explained, looking perplexed. Did that boy teleport you all the way from China to Japan? Well, he did have a Chaos Emerald, so it's not like it's impossible. And would explain why he was in such rough shape. Wait. Where is he? Is he okay? Maria asked frantically. He's in another room. He was extremely exhausted, and his body was in a peculiar state, Izuku said. But thanks to our technology he's stable at the moment. Although he's still unconscious. Oh, thank God, Maria said. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you want to thank me, you can start by explaining a few things, Izuku said, before taking out the Chaos Emerald from his pocket. Like how you got this. That was the most confusing part of this whole situation, as well as the most concerning. All of their Chaos Emeralds had been accounted for, which could only mean that this Chaos Emerald was not made by them. The gem, my grandfather gave it to me. Maria explained, her expression darkening and fear filling her eyes. He said to take it and run. Run from what? Izuku asked, becoming more and more intrigued. From GUN. Maria explained with a bitter look. They were a private military company my grandfather worked with. But one day they just turned on us and started killing people in the lab. I don't know why. But grandfather just told me and Lo to take the emerald and run. We were being chased and then everything turned white, and we were in your lab. I see. Izuku pondered, before giving her a sympathetic look. I'm sorry for your loss. But at least you and your friend made it out with your lives. He's my cousin, Maria explained. He has a health problem. My grandfather was trying to fix him using that gem. He said it held powerful energy, with potential beyond anything the world had ever seen. Well, he wasn't wrong, Izuku said. Those experiments probably amplified his quirk, which is why he has so much power. Quirk? Maria questioned. What do you mean by quirk? Izuku gave her another confused quirk. His quirk. Meta ability. His superpower. Superpower? Maria's eyes widened, as she finally put everything together. Lo has superpowers. That's how he teleported us. But, how? And why were you calling it a quirk? Now Izuku was even more confused. Because that's what everyone calls them. Maria looked just as confused. What do you mean that's what everyone calls them? Does anyone besides Lil have superpowers? Is that a real question? Izuku was beyond confused. Most of the world had quirks. It was weirder not to have one. How could she not know about them? Where are you from exactly? New York, Maria answered. But I moved to China with my grandfather after my parents died. Izuku took out the crystal again, but it was still green, proving she was telling the truth. That doesn't make any sense. Unless something's wrong with memory. Ms. Maria, do you know what year it is? How long was I asleep? Maria asked, wanting to make sure she hadn't been in a coma. 3 days, Izuku answered. Then it should still be 2037, Maria answered, only to be confused when Izuku and Sai's eyes went as wide as dinner plates. Izuku took out the crystal again, but it was still green, and he looked back at Maria with a dead serious expression. Ms. Maria, do you truly believe that it's 2037? I did. But you're making me doubt it. Maria answered honestly. When were you born? Izuku asked her. 2020, Maria answered. Izuku looked at the crystal. Still green. That's, oh, sir, I know the crystal didn't turn red, but perhaps something may be wrong with her head? Sai suggested, speaking in Japanese to Maria couldn't understand. There was no record of her in any database. Izuku responded in Japanese. And the machines didn't detect any damage to her head or brain. I know it might be hard to believe. But, with chaos energy anything's possible. Izuku turned back to Maria and paused. As he tried to figure out what to say. Is something wrong? Maria asked, getting a bit unnerved by the sudden turn the mood in the room took. Ms. Maria, 2037. Izuku paused. Was over 200 years ago.